Tervasanai. What do you want to learn? There is one thing if you want to learn. How to become a disciple of the Buddha. That's the only way for you to attain Nibbana or achieve your salvation. But it's so hard. That's so hard. That's why we always ask you to come and join with us. Come to the monastery and associate with Mahasangha. That's the reason, ladies and gentlemen. There's a huge gap, huge difference between normal people and the Buddha's disciples. If you can become a Buddha's disciple, you will achieve your salvation. Until that, I will preach to you. You need to take that decision. You don't have to ordain, but you have to be a disciple. That means you have to take refuge. To take refuge, you should understand about yourself. You should understand about the world and what has happened to you. And actually you should mourn. Can you? Can you mourn about yourself? That's necessary. Blessed are those who mourn, and they shall be, for they shall be comforted. You should mourn. I know most of them don't. When they lose someone, they mourn. And they try to do something to make their mind. And they change their mind. They grab another thing. When someone lost a family member, perhaps the mother or the father, son, whoever, then actually they are mourn at that time. Oh, they mourn, but they try to make up their mind, and they try to find another thing and go with that. That's what the people do. If you mourn, you will be comforted. That's why when someone comes to you and if they mourn in front of you, what would you do? You comfort them. You do something. But in this case, you have to mourn about yourself. That means about your life. Well, if you can't understand that, if you think that, oh, why should I mourn? I'm so happy, then you are comforted already because you are happy. By singing a song, if you say that I'm fully comforted and I sing a song and I dance, I have friends, I have my family and I live with them, I'm so happy. Actually, then you are so happy and you are in the kingdom of heaven then. Then you don't have to look for anything. You don't have to listen to sermons. You don't have to take refuge in the Buddha or the Noble Triple Gem. You don't have to do anything because you are happy. But the problem is you are not happy. That's why you sing. That's why you listen to songs. That's why you read books. You are not happy. You try to pass time, ladies and gentlemen. You always try to find a way to pass time because your life is so heavy. That's why you try to engage yourself with so many things, because your life is so heavy. If I ask you to stay still for 5 minutes, you will see that, without talking to anyone, without moving your head even, then you will realize that how heavy the life is. And if I ask you to stop thinking, and actually it will be impossible. If I ask you to think about only one thing, that's also will be impossible. Impossible means it will be so hard. But if you practice, you will do that. But that is called one-pointedness. But the Buddha didn't ask us to practice that. By practicing that, you can forget things. But we are not here to forget anything. We are here to realize things. Realize life and achieve the life. That's why we are gathered here. Therefore, let's discuss about life, and let's discuss about the world, and let's try to mourn. Let's try to mourn. About our own life. About your restlessness, anger, anxiety, all these things. You have all these things, ladies and gentlemen. Perhaps you don't want to say that, but you have all these things. Most of the time, people hold a grudge against someone. They are restless. You all know that. Therefore, when you understand this, I want you to mourn. In that case, you will try to find your salvation. Otherwise, if you think that, no, I have money, I have enough money to live. Yes, you have enough money to live, but you don't have a peace of mind to live. You have a good education, I know. You have enough money. Perhaps you are the richest person. You have the most beautiful wife or most handsome husband. You have everything. You have everything. But you are not what you have, ladies and gentlemen. What do you think? You are not what you have. You have something today. And when you pass away, your children will inherit that. Then they have that. You don't have anything. If government asks you to leave everything, and if the government puts you in jail, you won't have anything after that. But still you will have your mind. Still you will have your life. Therefore, we always should think about our life, not what we have. Therefore, whatever you have, keep it with you. That's totally fine. That will comfort you. Actually, it's bodily. You can make yourself comfortable. You will eat what you want, or something good, something healthy, because you have enough money to buy those things. You will have a house. You will have a vehicle. You can protect yourself. But you can't protect your mind. Because the mind doesn't have anything. You have everything. That's how you think. I have everything. I have whatever I need. But the mind doesn't have anything. The mind is overwhelmed by the ego. The mind is suffering. But you have everything. You listen. You means actually when the ego is created, that's you, finally. Therefore, whatever the ego thinks, that's you. Therefore, you don't have any problem. But if you can be aware and become your mind, you will mourn. Can you remember? The mind. This is the mind. This process is the mind. This process is the mind. Let's be the mind for a while. Now you know that the ego is created due to ignorance and attachment and all those vexation and abhisankara, the safety mechanism. After that, the ego is created, ego forms. Let's assume that this is you. Then you can identify something, you can know something, you can notify something, and you can identify something, and finally you can perceive something. When you perceive something, suddenly you feel a false sense of existence. You feel that you are a human being, or you are a being at least. Then suddenly a huge responsibility come on your shoulder. Now you are a being. That means you are an entity. You have a past, and you will have a future, and you have the present. Therefore, now you have to live in these 3 times, as well as you need to protect what you have. The mind is free. This is happiness. The mind is free. The mind wants to be free, ladies and gentlemen, but the problem is the ego doesn't let it. When the ego is formed, the mind can't do anything. Then the mind has to be a slave to the ego. Because when the ego is created, the ego has its own wantings. The ego has its own desires. The mind doesn't have any desire, but ego has desires. The ego has desires, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, the ego creates more desires. And the ego is willing to take more views, and with those views, the ego will take more desires. Now, when the ego has desires, the mind has to achieve them. Because you know that you talk, and you think, and you work, you act. These are the 3 things you do. Actually, these are the 3 things the mind does. Now the mind has to work or act to fulfill whose dreams? Whose goals? The ego's goals, the ego's dreams, the ego's desires. The ego doesn't stop this. Therefore, the mind has to live for that. And the mind has to suffer. The ego is not suffering, ladies and gentlemen. The mind is suffering. Because can you feel suffering? When you suffer, you feel suffering. You feel suffering means actually the mind suffers. The ego is only a defilement. The mind suffers. But when you feel or when you experience your existence, then you have all these times and all these 3 times, and you have to live in those 3 times, and you have to make your own goals, own dreams, and you will achieve it because of vexation. Now the mind has to vex. That's why I told you, if you are the mind, you should mourn. If you mourn, you will work out your salvation, because then you will have a target at least. Why should I? When I tell these things, perhaps you think, if you are very new to the Dhamma, perhaps you think that, what happened to this monk? Why is talking about vexation and all these things while we are so happy? Why does he ask us to mourn? We didn't lose anyone. We have whatever we need. We are so happy. How can you say that, ladies and gentlemen? That's why I want you to understand that bit. If you can understand that, you will be comforted definitely. That's why I told you. Jesus Christ said that. I found it in the Bible. And I was over the moon. Oh my God. He said the truth. I was so happy at that time because Christian people can attain Nibbana or enter the kingdom of heaven if they follow. But they have to follow. Otherwise, just think about this. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Just tell me, what is the meaning apart from this? Put a meaning on that. That means Jesus Christ asks you to cry. Then He will come and pet you. Oh, don't cry, baby, don't cry. Is that the meaning? He was a great philosopher, ladies and gentlemen. Then it must have a deeper meaning. That's why I always tell you all, when you listen to the Buddha, when you listen to Jesus Christ, when you listen to Prophet Muhammad, when you listen to Bhagavan, Krishna, whoever, if they are philosophers, you need to listen to them with, or you need to take them deeply. Otherwise you will only get something empty. It will be useless. Then you will say that, oh, his teaching is useless. Their teaching is not useless. Therefore, when you understand the Dhamma, when you understand the reality, definitely you will mourn. If you mourn, then you will be comforted, because if you mourn, you will start practicing the path. If you start coming here, I know that there are many people in Colombo. If we ask them to come here, the first thing they would say, tell me, the distance. Oh, it's too far to go. Yes, it's too far to go, but they are looking forward to going where? To the heaven. Is it near? Is it near? They want to go to heaven, but they are not ready to come to the monastery. That's why I don't believe in these people, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry to say, is that okay for me to say the truth? But don't be offended. But that's the truth. At least let me talk the truth. Even though it hurts, then at least you will realize something. Let me be your grandfather and blame you and perhaps slap you to teach you the truth. Because you don't have your grandfather, or you don't have a teacher perhaps. If you don't have a teacher, no one is there to force you to do something, because now you are an elder. If you are a kid and if you deny to go to school, what did your parents do? They slapped you, they slapped me, my parents, and forced me to go to school. I didn't want to go to school because I came here to be happy. I came to this world to be happy. I only wanted nothing but happiness. Then my parents asked me to go to school. Then they said that go to school, and they showed me the carrot. Then I was the donkey behind it. Of course, that story is also very true, ladies and gentlemen. If there is a carrot, someone is behind that. But that one should be, tell me, whose? A donkey. Definitely a donkey. I have realized that. A donkey. Someone is behind that. That should be a donkey. Because the donkey can't understand about the carrot. That's what happened to me. I was a donkey, and my parents showed me the education, then I got the education. I had to do that. Then somehow, if I deny, or if I tried to stay at home with my parents. I wanted to live with my parents. But they asked me to go to school. And my mother and my father loved me so much. They also wanted to live with me and my siblings. What about you? That's the same story. They wanted to live with us, but finally they asked us to go to school, and they forced us to go to school. Then I asked them that I love you all, I want to stay with you. Then why should you ask me to go to school? But that's the society, ladies and gentlemen. We came here for happiness. We came to this world for happiness, but we don't have that path. We didn't have that path, but right now, luckily, we have the path. But before we didn't have that path. Therefore, we had to do what the society asked us to do. And our parents forced us to do things what the society forced them to do. Then finally, we all had to do the same thing. But anyway, now let me be your teacher. Let's assume that you are just 16 years old. A boy, a small boy and a small girl. Then I can blame you. But now you are in your 50s, 60s perhaps, then I can't tell anything because you will be offended. That's the problem. Therefore I had to be very careful. But somehow you can see that everybody wants something, ladies and gentlemen, but they are not ready to sacrifice. I always ask, because if there is only one path, then we must practice that. Whether it's bitter or sweet, whether it's short or long, we must practice that path. If you really want to enter the kingdom of heaven or the supreme bliss of Nibbana, then there is one path. I'll show you the path, but we should practice. That's why I told you, you should mourn. You should mourn means you should mourn about your life. You should. Should means, like, I can't do that forcefully, but I will show the truth. Then try to understand the truth. Then when you see the truth, you will mourn. Because if you can, this is yourself, or this is you. Just imagine that, this is you. But now, this can't experience its life. This is the life, this is happiness, this is the kingdom of heaven, this is Nibbana. I can prove that. This is the kingdom of heaven. Last time also I think I asked this question, but I'll ask again. Why do you want to go to heaven? This is the earth. Then why can't we stay in the earth? And why people, Buddhists, Christians, Muslims, everyone, Hindus, everyone wants to go to heaven. My problem is, why can't we stay in earth? What's the problem with that? There is one problem. That's why everybody wants to go there. Here you suffer. Yeah? That's the problem. Here you suffer. When you live in earth, then you suffer. Therefore, you don't want to suffer. Therefore, you want to go somewhere which you can live without suffering. That's the reason. That's the reason everybody wants to go there. But let's assume, let's take this. The poor always think that rich people are not suffering. What do you think? The poor always think that the rich are not suffering. Isn't that true? That's true. That's why they try to follow rich people. They try to earn money. However, they try to earn money. They try to earn money and try to be rich because they think that once they become rich, they will be okay and they will have everything what they need and they will be happy, and that will be the kingdom of heaven or their salvation. That's how people think. If you have associated with poor people, that's how they talk, and they always think that, and they always have jealousy with them. That's why they always try to criticize rich people. But they want to be rich. That's their goal. That's why they read books. That's why people write books. How to become a millionaire. How to become a successful person. How to become rich. How to... whatever. There are many books. 1 million or 1 trillion books, perhaps. How to become rich. Because everybody wants to achieve that target. Because people think that once you become rich, you will be okay and you will have everything. But you all are rich, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, you know that it's only what you have. That's not you. There is a small steel cupboard, perhaps $200, and that's worth is $200. And when we put a diamond necklace, which is $5 million, just tell me, what is the worth of this? This cabinet, this cupboard. We put a diamond necklace. It's worth $5 million. But this is only $200. Sorry, pounds, I would say. 200 pounds. But I said dollar, because I used to write pound. It happened. Okay. 200 pounds. And this is 5 million pounds. What is the worth of this? Just only 200, ladies and gentlemen. That's only 200. Because this cupboard has this. This cupboard is not the necklace. This is not the necklace. The cupboard is a cupboard. It's worth only 200. Whatever you put into that means whatever the cupboard has, it doesn't increase its value. That's why I told you, ladies and gentlemen, you are who you are. Oh, that's it. Therefore, this is you. And you have acquired many things. I know you have acquired many things because you were deceived. Therefore, you had to do all these things. Therefore, now you have everything. But that's fine. That's fine. Let's keep it with you. You have everything. You can spend them and you can have a luxurious life. I want you to have that. I want you to have that. I don't want you to suffer. That's why I preach to you. Physically, you have everything. Physically, you are comforted. I don't have to comfort. Actually, you have to comfort us physically. That means you need to give something to eat. Therefore, whatever you have, that's fine. But the thing is, you are not comforted because you have things. This is not what... actually, the cupboard has this. Therefore, it doesn't increase its value. It has this. But if the cupboard is made up of diamond, now the cupboard is diamond. The cupboard is the diamond necklace. Therefore, it has its own value. That's the thing. Therefore, don't measure yourself with what you have. I don't have anything. I have only this, ladies and gentlemen. I have only this. And an arm's ball. I'm ready to go wherever you ask me to go with these two. Can you price this wisdom? Can you price so-called Guru Hamdru? That's the thing. But I don't have anything. Only have this. I don't think someone will steal this even. This is an old robe. That's it. Even though it's new, it's only a piece of cloth, ladies and gentlemen. Who wants to steal that? Therefore, whatever I have doesn't measure me. Let me help you. to improve yourself. Again, please don't be offended, because you have achieved a lot. I know that. The thing is, you have achieved a lot. Therefore, you have those things. And you have spent half of your life, perhaps, or 3/4 of your life. And still, you have things. That's why I told you we were deceived. We were deceived. Actually, blind people guided us. They were blind. If the blind guide us, we will follow them, ladies and gentlemen. We had to, because we were also blind and we didn't see the truth, we didn't see the light. Therefore, we had to follow them. We didn't have any choice. We knew the Buddha, we knew Jesus Christ, we knew all spiritual masters. We knew about them, only knew. And perhaps we offer some flowers. But we couldn't be their disciples. That's the problem. We couldn't be their disciples. We didn't have a chance to be their disciples because we didn't know about them and we didn't know about their teachings. If you can become Samma Sambuddha Savaka, that means if you can become a disciple of the Buddha, you will definitely achieve Nibbana. You will definitely enter the kingdom of heaven. There is a path to do that. Then you should practice the path to eradicate attachment. The Buddha said, Samma Sambuddha Savako. Samma Sambuddha Savako means the Buddha's disciples. If you want to become a Buddha's disciples, your life should have only one meaning or one aim. That aim is, you are to eradicate ignorance. If you practice the path to eradicate ignorance, and if that is the aim of your life, you practice, whatever you do, you practice to eradicate ignorance and attachment, you are a disciple of the Buddha. That's why we always ask you to come and join with us, come to us, and let's practice together, because you can do your businesses, that's totally fine. You can look after your children, you can look after your family, that's totally fine. You don't have to become a monk, but if you are young, we invite you to come and join with us, because then you have enough time and you don't have responsibilities. But if you are in your middle age, then you have responsibilities, you have a family and you have everything, and you have social activities. All these things. Therefore, we can't ask you to come and stay with us forever. But if you are young, there is only one solution, because you can finish this. That's why we ask you to come. You can finish this. You can practice. If you take them, actually, they have only one aim. If they have another aim, I'll ask them to go home. If they have another thing, then why should you stay here? If you are not a Samma Sambuddha Savaka, if you are not a disciple of the Buddha, why should you stay with us? Because this monastery is only for the disciple of the Buddha. When I say disciple of the Buddha, you should understand that I'm talking about realization and I'm talking about salvation. Therefore, I can't use that word, otherwise I will use that you should be the disciple of you should be a disciple of Jesus Christ. I can't say that because extremists work against us if I use this, because I have this robe. If I'm a lay person, I would talk about all these spiritual leaders, ladies and gentlemen. They are actually, the world has been blessed because of their presence. I can see that, but extremists can't see, because they are extremists, and that means actually their ego is very high and very powerful, that they can change everything within a second. They can destroy everything within a second. But you should remember that I respect with my life. I respect them, all the religious leaders, because I have seen their teaching, I have studied their teaching, therefore I respect with my life, ladies and gentlemen. But I can't say that. But I said, but I can't say that. That's why we always ask our monks, our anagarikas, siddhasavakas, savikas, whoever listen to our sermons, we always ask, we engage with the Dhamma and the Noble Society, because you should practice, you should have only one name. When you feed your child, you should have only one name, that's eradication of attachment. Tanhakkaya rato hoti. That's what the Buddha said. Tanhakkaya. That means the eradication of the process of attachment. You need to eradicate, or you need to cease the process of attachment. Then you can become, or at least you should be willing to. You should work out. You should practice. Then you can become a Samma Sambuddha. If someone wants to go to heavens, in Buddhism we have 6 heavens. If someone wants to go to heavens or Brahma world, there are many other places you can go after your death. Then if someone tries to go there, the Buddha asks, they are not my disciples. They are not my disciples, because my disciples always want to attain Nibbana, which means my disciples always want to eradicate or cease the process of attachment. Therefore, if you can become that, while you are feeding your children, you can try, you can work out. Actually, you don't have to stop all your other work and practice the path. You have to practice the path right now. That means when you listen to me, when you listen to this sermon, you should practice. When you walk, you should practice. When you talk, you should practice. That's how we do. In the future, I will teach you about Satara Satipatthana. The Buddha asks that is the only path you can attain Nibbana and achieve your salvation. That is the only path, Satara Satipatthana. Then I will talk about. Then one day, then you will realize that yes, whatever we do, we need to be aware and we need to be conscious. Conscious means we need to be with the Dhamma. Dhamma. Again, last week we were talking about the Dhamma. What is Dhamma? What is the Dhamma? The Dhamma is righteousness. We need to talk about the righteousness. We need to think about the righteousness. We need to use righteousness. Because if you can be righteous, then you will be filled. Again, Jesus Christ said that. You should be righteous. Now here you can see that you feel emptiness. You feel a void always. Whatever you do, again you have that void and you keep trying to fill that void. You feel that void due to vexation, ladies and gentlemen. If the mind is vexed, you feel that. Because, and the other thing is, attachment causes wantings. When you get attached to something, you always have a wanting. Therefore, the ego has wantings. Let's talk about wantings. If you have a wanting, that means actually you don't have that. That's why you want it. Here, I have this pen. I have this pen, therefore I don't want this pen because I already have it. This is not a wanting. I have it. If you have a wanting, that means you don't have it. Perhaps that's the emptiness you always feel. That's the void you always feel. When you have a wanting and if you achieve it, also you will feel the void. Because you can say that I have it, but the problem is the mind is brand new and the ego is also brand new. The mind is formed and the ego is also formed at the same time. Therefore, now this is a cycle. One cycle is over, then the next cycle is formed. When it comes to the next cycle, it doesn't know about what you have. Therefore, you have to remember, or you have to have a piece of paper. That's why you have your own lands and your lands and your vehicles and everything, and it has a paper. All of them are in a piece of paper. Therefore, you can always prove it to yourself. In Sinhalese, it's called oppuwa. That means, oppu in Sinhalese, oppu means you prove that. You prove that. You prove it to someone and you prove it to yourself. That's why you have all the oppus. Because you had to prove it to yourself, because this is brand new. This doesn't know anything what you have. When the mind is created, it's brand new. When the ego is created, it's brand new. Therefore, it has to use its memory and take what it has. That's why right now you are listening to me, you forgot your children. Do you have children? Oh, now you oh yes, I have children. Now you can remember their faces and everything. But in a minute, you will forget that. You will forget that. That means actually you are not forgetting anything, ladies and gentlemen. What happens is, when you listen to me, the mind is created regarding that voice, that sound. And you are so busy to understand that. Because when I say when, now when, it has syllables. Now you have to identify all these things. When you say way, you hear that sound. You hear that sound, but it also has it also uses many minds. But I would say one mind for one syllable. Let's assume that one mind for one syllable. In that case, you can say way. Then way is created first. Rupa manifests. That's the first thing. After that, now way, it is created now in your mind. Yeah, you know that I can't produce any sound. You know that now. I can't produce any sound. This is only a vibration. Through the vibration, the sound, whatever the sound is created in your mind. Therefore, this syllable, which is way, is created in your mind. After that, that is the rupa. Then, now Vedana is created. That means notification occurs. That means you can hear it. That is a notification. You can hear it. Sound is created, and the second part is you can hear it. That's Vedana. That's Vedana. That's why I use that word, notification. Actually, it notifies. When you see this, the color is created in the mind. After that, it notifies. Notification occurs. That's why you can see this. You can't see this. Actually, what you see is the color which is created in your mind. The color should be created in your mind first. After that, you can notify it, which means you can see it. Now, you identify it. Way. And finally, you perceive it. But it's not enough, because way, what is way? Therefore, you had to go back to the mind again. That means thought and mind. Now here, this rupa is created, ears and sound or vibration. Now another way, there is another way to the mind to be created. There is another way for the mind to be created, that is the mind and thought. That means the mind and memory. Then the mind has to access to the memory and get data from there. And gets data from there. Then the mind gets data from there and try to identify the meaning of way. It's very complex, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, the Buddha says, don't ever think about the mind, you will go mad. You can see that it's very, very hard for us to understand that, and very complex. To just to understand way, at least 1 million minds to be created. just to understand where. Now in this case you can see when, then if you want to understand the word when, that is the process. Therefore it's not simple. But that's how the mind works. Let's keep it there and go back to wanting. Yeah. Let's go back to that. Now, wanting. If you have a wanting, now you can see you don't have that. Even you have it, that's the point. Even you have it, you don't have it. That means, even you have it, the mind is brand new. The mind doesn't know about that. Therefore, the mind has to remind it. That's what I told you. Now, when you listen to me, you have to be very vigilant and you have to be very careful and you have to be very subtle, because the mind is so subtle, because the mind has to understand each and everything. Each and everything. Otherwise, it can't understand when, the word when. Therefore, while you are listening to me, you can't think about what you have or about your children, your parents. That's why you forget. Actually, you are not forgetting it. That is not in your mind. If you want to see this, the mind should be created. If you want to see this, the mind should be created. While you are seeing this, you can't see this, ladies and gentlemen, because you are not a being. You are the mind. Therefore, when you perceive this, there is no such thing called this in your life. But if you take that you are the ego lives in 3 times. Therefore, you can say that, I only forgot. That's how you say, I forgot my kids. When I listen to you, I forgot my kids. No, you didn't. Actually, you can't remember your kids, ladies and gentlemen. You had to create your kids in your mind. To create your kids, you need to use the mind. But just imagine this. If you think that if you are the ego, therefore you always think that I forgot them, but now I can remember them. It's not happened like that. Actually, that they are not in your mind. When you listen to something, when you see something, others are not in this world, ladies and gentlemen. The world is created in your mind. I'm not talking about things that are made up of 4 basic elements or subatomic particles, electrons, protons, neutrons. I'm not talking about them. They exist. They exist in this world. That is actually external world. That is the external world. I'm talking about the internal world, which is colorful and with sound, and you experience. Because you can't experience electron, proton, neutrons. You can't see this object, ladies and gentlemen. Only what you see is the color. You can see a shape, but can you see a shape here? Let me draw a circle. Can you see it? Can you see this? No, you can't. Why? It doesn't have a border. You should have a border to see a shape. Now can you see this? Now you can see this because it has a border. That means actually you see this color. You can't see any other thing. Therefore, actually you can't see the external world. You only see, or you only perceive, you only experience internal world, which means the world which is created by the mind and in the mind. Therefore, the mind has its own world. It's colorful and it has sounds, it has smells, it has tastes, and it has touch. When you touch something, actually you can't touch this, ladies and gentlemen. Touch is created in your mind. Therefore, you can't say that this is hard. I can give you something very soft, but I will fix some electrodes on your head and I will make you feel it's very tough, very hard. Perhaps you don't have to touch anything. We can use only electrodes because we can send signal via brain to the mind and make you feel tough or soft, whatever. If we fix electrodes, we can show you colors. Because colors are created in your mind. If you can stimulate your cells in the eyes, corn cells, then you will see colors. Colors are created in your mind through those senses. A world is created. Therefore, now you can see a world which is created in your mind. Therefore, when the mind is created, a world is created. In that world, if you see this, you can't see any other thing, and you can't hear any other thing, you can't touch or you can't smell, you don't have any other thing. But if we collect all this, the mind can collect all these things, ladies and gentlemen. The mind has that ability, otherwise we can't perceive anything. Then when I see you, only I can see a drop of color. It's not enough for me to understand you and perceive. Therefore, the mind has an ability to get the collective effect. That's why we talk about skandha, aggregates. We talk about aggregates. This rupa is an aggregation. Rupa skandha. We take them as aggregation. Can you understand when I say aggregation? It aggregates, and it's we can't just understand one rupa. But we perceive it. But we perceive means, we perceive it, but we can't understand that. Therefore, it should be aggregated. Then it aggregates and make a huge rupa. That's why you can see something big here. You need that ability, and the mind has that ability. But that is not the problem. Problem is ignorance and attachment. Let me explain about that as well. In this case, now you can see the mind is so busy. When you see something, you only perceive that. When you perceive that, you don't have other things. Therefore, when you listen to this sermon, you don't have your house. The house exists there. The house which is made up of atoms, that means materials, that exists there. But those colors, what you have seen, is not there. If you go there and see, then you will see the house. You can't see your house from here. You can't see your spouse from here. When your spouse go to work, you can't see her or him. Your spouse should be created in your mind. Then you can see, you can perceive. All other time, she is not in your life. Actually, no one is in your life, ladies and gentlemen. But when you are the ego, you have everything. Then you can say that, I have everything. Last year, I bought this, therefore I have that. You can say that. Last year, I bought this, and few years ago, we got few kids, and we have them. A few years ago, that happened in our past. Because you have a past, because you are the ego. But if you are the mind, it happened right now. This is brand new. That's why I told you, you can have a brand new life, but the problem is now you can't have a brand new life because you have the past. You have the past, therefore you always think about your past, and you feel that you are 80 years old, 50 years old, 60 years old. You feel that. Then when you go to the mirror, then you see that, oh yes, of course, look at my hair and look at my face. Yes, I'm old. No, you are not old. This body is old, ladies and gentlemen. You are brand new. But the problem is, you can't experience that. Let me help you to experience a brand new life. And you never die. I promise, you never die. When you have a disease, how much you spend? And how long you spend? That means how many hours you spend to cure that, how many days, how many months, how many years. If you have cancer, how much money will you spend to cure that? I'm going to ask you to give me half of that. I will make you immortal. No, I don't need your money. Can you give me your life? Anyway, you are going to die. Because you have, I'm not talking about you, okay? I'm not talking about you. But anyway, you are going to die. Because you have cancer. Let's assume that. You have cancer. Anyway, you are going to die. But can you give your life to me? Because money is not... Actually, I wanted money because I will take that money and I will give you that for auto. To take auto, that means take a vehicle to come to the monastery. Because you don't have money, perhaps you don't have time. But when you have a cancer, when you have cancer, then you have time. You have all the time in the world. Because no one accepts you after that, because you are cast away. Because you are going to die. When you are old, no one asks you to come and work with them. Try to apply for a job when you are in your 60s, your 70s. Try to apply. No, they always... I saw one advertisement last week for garment industry, and it says 18 to 28 or 38. 18 to 38. When I saw that, actually, I'm sorry, perhaps there are businessmen and women here. I'm sorry, but that is the truth. Now here you can see that they are going to extract their life. Don't you feel that you are so lucky? Because you have your life. You have your full life with you. You can use that for your salvation. Because you got the truth. You understood the truth. Therefore, you are not deceived anymore. Therefore, when someone asks from you to do something else, you won't do that. But they do, because they don't have the Dhamma. Therefore, when someone shows the carrot, then there will be the donkey behind it. That's what happened, ladies and gentlemen. I felt so uncomfortable when I saw this, but I can't. I'm helpless. I can't help them. So they are not meritorious. Therefore, they can't come to us. Perhaps they are against us. They think that is correct. The world is correct. The society is correct. That's how people think. They don't know about righteousness. They don't talk about righteousness. They only love goodness and badness. They don't know about righteousness. Therefore, we are persecuted for righteousness' sake. That's what we fear. But that's fine. Because we are persecuted for righteousness' sake. Therefore, we are okay. Because we are talking about the truth. The truth will set us free. Therefore, we know that for sure. Therefore, we practice the path. But they try to take their life from 18 to 38. That means when someone is 38 years old, then they have another 12 to 17 years. Then they take it and cast them away. With a pension, perhaps. What's the use of that? That's just to survive, ladies and gentlemen. Just to survive. Just to have the 4 requisites, perhaps. Or plus, they can go on holiday once a year. That's the thing. Does that happen to you all? The society used you. The society used you then, and they gave you things. Actually, they are generous. Can't you see that the society is very generous? Because they gave you, therefore you have a lot. You have a lot. But what happened to your life? They got it. Because you had a chance when you were so young, you were so energetic, and you could work hard. And now you can think that I could have worked hard. To achieve my salvation. But right now we are talking about our salvation. Just think about that. You have spent half of your life, or more than that, and now we are talking about our salvation. We lost our energy, and now we are talking about our salvation. Therefore, young ladies and gentlemen, young people, I'm talking to you, don't be deceived. Don't be deceived. Heed advice. Heed my words. Otherwise, come after 20 years. I'll show you a face to you, and you will see. And you will actually, by the time, you will have lost your energy. Again, I'm not insulting I can't use the word. I want to find a nice word. Senior citizens. Senior citizens. But it should be very nice, otherwise they will be offended. Not you. If you're offended, I can say that I'm sorry. Then you'll be okay. Forgive. We will forgive. But others, not talking about. Now in this case, you can say, this is what happened to people. This is what happened, and this is what is happening, and this is what will happen to people if they don't understand. Therefore, if you are ignorant, that is the most dangerous thing in your life. If you are ignorant. If you live with ignorance, it will eat you alive. I'm telling you. That's what happened to you. Therefore, now, actually, I told you before, the society is so generous, therefore they gave you a good salary, they paid you, and perhaps they gave you a vehicle, they gave you a house. Therefore, now you have a mansion and you have a lot of money in your bank account. Now you have everything but your life. You have everything. Therefore, I ask you, don't be deceived about what you have. Let's talk about what we are or who we are. This is us. Let's experience this. We can't experience this because of the ego. Therefore, we need to eradicate this. Therefore, if you can understand this, and if you can at least assume that this is you, and you should be mourned because you lost everything because of this, because this had wanting, this had desires, then the mind had to fulfill them. The mind had to fulfill them, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, it happened. It happened. You can't move your arm without your mind. The ego doesn't move your arm, ladies and gentlemen. The mind moves it. The ego doesn't talk. The mind talks. That is called Vachi Sankara. You have to do Vachi Sankara. Vachi Sankara is happened in the mind. The mind is created for Vachi Sankara. Vachi Sankara means a certain type of mind should be created to make words, make sounds. Sounds, not sounds actually, like notations. When I say who, that's also. To produce that vibration, you need Vachi Sankara. Therefore, the mind has to do Vachi Sankara. The mind has to do Kaya Sankara. Kaya Sankara means bodily. To move your body, to act. That is Vachi Sankara, Kaya Sankara. Now you can see, to do Kaya Sankara, to do Vachi Sankara, I will use Pali terms for these things, ladies and gentlemen. It's so easy. You just try to remember the meaning, then we will go with Pali terms. Now, in this case, you can see what to do Vachi Sankara, Kaya Sankara, and Mano Sankara. Mano Sankara means to perceive things. To perceive things, here this is called Sankara. This Sankara occurs to perceive something. That is called Mano Sankara. Mano Sankara, without Mano Sankara, you can't perceive anything. To perceive this, you need Mano Sankara. To hear this, that means you need to hear. Hear means you need to perceive that. Perceive the sound. Sound is created and you should perceive that. The mind perceives it. Yeah? To do that, you need to means the mind has Mano Sankara. That is called Mano Sankara. Therefore, to perceive everything, you need Mano Sankara. And to talk, you need Vachi Sankara. And to act means move your body, or what will happen, to breathe. Inhale, exhale, all these things. To do all these things, you need Kaya Sankara. Now in this case, you can see that Kaya Sankara, Vachi Sankara, Mano Sankara occur in the mind. Therefore, the mind does all these things. The ego doesn't do anything. Then what does ego do? It's like our childhood. Can you remember your childhood? Parents earned, can you remember? They earned, they worked hard, and what did we do? We just ate. We played, we ate, and we enjoyed. They worked hard. Our parents had to do whatever we wanted. Can you remember? When we wanted to eat something delicious, our mother has to do that. Mother had to do that. The mother had to cook. Perhaps she doesn't want to eat and she doesn't like, but she cooked it for us. She used her time. Time means, you know that time is an illusion. Therefore, she used her life. She used her life to fulfill our desires. This is the mother, this is the child. The child doesn't do anything, ladies and gentlemen. The child doesn't do anything. The child has its wantings, or his wantings, desires, dreams, goals. The child can't come out of that because the child is so ignorant. Therefore, the child can't come out of that. Therefore, the mind has to work. If you are the mind, don't you mourn now? That's I told you. That is the truth. But what can you do? Thus I told you that without the Buddha, we are so destitute, ladies and gentlemen. We need to take refuge. Because we are refugees, we are helpless, we are destitute, homeless, needy. We need help. If you can understand that, we can work together. I'll preach to you until you understand that. Until you want to achieve your salvation. I want you to want to do this. Otherwise, we can talk every day. You come here, I speak to you, and that's it. You go home and you do your own work. Because you listen to me, when you listen to me, you will get something, but when you go home, you will be the ego again. You don't have to go to home, actually, ladies and gentlemen. When I finish this sermon, then you will become the ego again. If you don't practice, the mind is subdued by this. The mind is helpless. The mind can't do anything. That's why the mind has to suffer. That's why you experience suffering. That's why the mind has to be vexed. Therefore, that's why you experience vexation. If you can't achieve your goals, your dreams, then you are vexed. That means anger is created. Then you are angry. That means the mind is angry. Can you imagine that? The mind is angry. It's impossible, essentially. It's impossible, but it happened. And it happens. The mind is angry. This is the most sacred thing in the world, according to my understanding. Even in the dog. Even in a dog, even in an ant. The mind is created. The mind, which means consciousness. Consciousness is the most sacred thing. Then if you worship the Buddha, actually you worship consciousness. His consciousness. I can't say his consciousness, actually consciousness. This is useless. But people love materialistic things. People can kill someone easily to gain materialistic things, ladies and gentlemen, because they don't know the value of consciousness. Here we are talking about consciousness. That is the same. We all have the same consciousness. Even dogs, ants, blue whales, deities, demons, whoever you talk about. Everyone has the same consciousness. Consciousness is created with the help of this body. But you can feel separateness. You can feel your existence suddenly. That's called I. That's called self. But we all are the same. We all are nature. Let's go back to that. Let's talk about nature now. But however, listen to this. Try to take something and try to contemplate, please. Try to contemplate. Try to contemplate and let's work out this. It's not enough for you to just to listen. Let's work out this. You need to achieve your salvation. We are here to guide you. We are here to help you. You need to achieve your salvation. Then you will be a successful person. At least you can say that I had many things and finally I found the truth. Then I worked out and I achieved it. Now I am a successful person. I will die with that. I will die means you never die, ladies and gentlemen. You will be immortal. You will be immortal because you won death. But when I say immortal, then you have a different meaning. Immortal, that means this body will stay forever. And you, which means the ego, will be there forever. I'm not talking about that. You feel yourself. One day, if you don't feel yourself, if it will become only, or if it become only consciousness, then no one is there to die. If you talk about death, you need to talk about someone. I will say, die. Then I come to you and say, die. Is that complete? No. Then you will ask another sentence, another question. Who? To die, someone should be there. Therefore, with the practice of the Dhamma, you can remove that self, that means the ego. You can eradicate the ego. Then you will be the same consciousness. Then you won't have that problem anymore. I'm telling you, you won't have that problem anymore, listen. That means you won't be afraid of death. But right now, you are afraid of death. When you drive, you are very careful. You're very careful because you're afraid of death. And I think 2 days ago, there was a plane crash. Then what about your plane tickets you bought? You had to think about twice. Didn't that come to your mind? If something happened to me, that happened to them, if something happened to me when I travel, what happened to my children? What happened to my businesses? What happened to my things I have acquired? You may have think about that. You may have thought about that. But I means not I, which means Guru who have understood the Dhamma. I can't say Guru all the time. I can't say that Guru who has understood the Dhamma. They absolutely I. Okay? It's I. Or give me a word, then I'll use that. Then I will help you. I'll help you to be immortal. I will help you to cease your fear. You won't be afraid anymore. Afraid of death is really, really difficult to bear. You know that? Afraid of death. That's why when someone has cancer, actually they are suffering. They are suffering a lot because they know that they will die. But everyone dies. Perhaps before that, their family members die. But the patient is suffering because he knows that he will die, or he or she knows that he will die. Therefore, they are afraid of death. Everyone. Because you feel yourself, you experience yourself, experience your existence. Therefore, you are afraid of losing your existence. Then when someone says, don't worry, when you die you will go to heaven, oh, that's fine. But still, can we delay? If you believe in heaven, why don't you die later? Oh, I'm sorry to say this, okay? If you believe in heaven, why don't you at least commit suicide? If you believe in heaven, but you know that this body is perhaps this body is old, and this body has so many illnesses, and perhaps it's really difficult for you to walk now, to talk, and you can't marry again now. But when you go to heaven, you will have everything, and you will be brand new, and you will have everything. But who is ready to die? In their deathbed, they plead mercy from doctors. Please, please, I want to live. Help me. That's how they are, ladies and gentlemen. Can't you see that they are deceived, and actually they deceive others? They deceive each other because they don't have a path. Let me come back to you let me explain to you about nature. Are you nature? Or are you a part of nature? How do you feel? Are you in nature, or are you nature? That's the problem, ladies and gentlemen. With your answer, we can decide whether you are an arahant or not. If you feel or if you experience that you are nature, actually you are an arahant. That's our target. If you feel that you are nature, but you are not nature, you are a part of nature. That's how you feel, because you are in nature. That's how you feel. I am in nature. But we are not in nature, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, we are nature. We are nature. But the problem is, when I say that, if you are more natural than a wild elephant, do you believe it? Natural. That word natural. When I say the word natural, it always comes a jungle and a waterfall. These are the things that come to your mind. Natural. When we say natural, these are natural products. The meaning of that word is distorted. Natural means when something, actually I use this word, when something is nature, not in nature. When something is nature, that is natural. But actually I can't say something in nature, because when we come to nature, there is no such thing called something. Because when we talk about something, that means we are separated nature into pieces, and now we are talking about a part of nature. When you feel yourself, which means when you feel the ego, when you experience the ego, you are separated from nature. That's why you feel that you are a part of nature. Then when you experience this, you will experience others as well, and they are also part of nature. Therefore, now you can see nature. This is nature, and this is you, and this is your brother, your sister, your son, your mother, your father, and so on. And wild elephants are there, and lions are there, and waterfalls are there. This is nature. That's how you understand. That's how actually you know about nature. This is not nature, ladies and gentlemen. This is the ego's point of view. The ego can see nature like this because the ego wants to see nature like this. Because the ego wants to be separated. Because the ego believes in separation. The ego wants to be itself. This is me. That's why you don't have any other me. Can you find any other me? Is your spouse you? Is his spouse, how do you say that? Is your spouse you? Is that correct? Is his spouse you? No. You are, but you love him or her so much. Is that you then? No. You are separated. Your child is separated from you. Perhaps actually your child came from your womb, but still your child is separated. Therefore, your child is a part of nature, and you are a part of nature, while elephant is a part of nature. Everything is a part of nature. Therefore, nature consists of many things. That's how you believe. Therefore, you don't understand nature. You can't understand nature. If you can't understand nature, you'll be punished. To understand nature, you have to be righteous. That's why I think in the last week we were talking about that, and you have to be righteous. Righteousness is not goodness and badness. Righteousness is what is right, ladies and gentlemen. What is right? That means actually the truth. How many truths are there? Only one. How many falsehoods are there? How many? Many. Many. Billions, trillions. 1,000,000 trillion falsehoods. That means you may have 1,000,000 false views, but I want you to have one right view. The right view. That's called Sammaditthi in Buddha's words. There is one. That is the truth. If you find that truth will set you free. Only one truth. Many falsehoods. One truth. That is Sammaditthi. That's why you have to be righteous. Now, if you talk about righteousness, perhaps it's a little bit bitter, because that is right. That is not good. That is right. Society? The society doesn't accept that. The society doesn't accept righteousness. I use the society, I use the there when I can release some people. If someone argue with me, no, why we accept? Okay. I said that means bad. There's a bad society. You are okay. The society doesn't like righteousness. The society is created by the ego. That's why in your society you have many titles, many castes, many jobs, many divisions. Because the society is created by the ego. Therefore, the society doesn't like righteousness, which means the ego doesn't like righteousness. Therefore, when I talk to you about righteousness, you won't believe it if you are the ego. You won't accept it, because you might say that, oh, it's ridiculous, because what you say is bad. I'll give one example. Someone wants to attain Nibbana, and their parents deny it. Their parents don't let them attain Nibbana. What should you do? Because attaining Nibbana is the only thing you should do. You have understood that, but your parents didn't. But your parents force you to stay at home with them. What should you do? What should you do? If you are the society, what should you do? What should you say? Let's say that you are the society and you meet that boy. Let's say he's a boy. Yeah. And that boy wants to attain Nibbana. The boy wants to come to the monastery, this monastery or whatever monastery. The boy wants to come to the monastery and ordain and practice the path and attain Nibbana. That's his target. But his parents don't want him to come to the monastery and ordain. They want him to stay at home and look after them. Okay? Tell me, if you are the society, how do you advise that boy? Son, you need to look after your parents. And you can earn merits by doing that. That is the biggest merits you can earn. You need merits. Well, stay at home. Like us, be normal. Be normal. You are going over the limit. Isn't that true? Young people, please talk to me. Yes, that's the truth, ladies and gentlemen. But if you are righteous, what should you do? You should attain Nibbana. But it's bitter. The society doesn't accept that. Because that's not... It doesn't go with the society, ladies and gentlemen, because the society doesn't know about righteousness. The society is not righteous. The society is good and bad. Therefore, if you do something bad, they will ask you not to do that. Then if you do good things, they will ask you to encourage you to do that. But they are not righteous because they don't know natural rules. If you want to become righteous, If you want to be righteous, you should learn natural rules, ladies and gentlemen. That means nature's rules. Righteousness means truth. The truth means nature's rules. The Buddha found those. The Buddha found those rules, ladies and gentlemen. That is anicca, dukkha, anatta. It doesn't change with the time. And again, when I mentioned time, last time we had a problem with time. Can you remember? Akalika, the word we use, akalika. The world is akalika, but we wanted to find an English word and we found timelessness. And actually, we discussed about that. I talked to Nayak Hamdru because there are some English words you can use, but actually you can't get the real meaning. Therefore, that's why when you said timelessness, then I couldn't agree with that. Actually, I can't agree with any English or Sinhalese word, any word, because words are made to the society to talk about separateness. That's why this is me and this is you and he, she, it. Everything is separated. Trees, waterfalls, everything is separated. Words are for that. Therefore, actually we can't use words to explain akalika. Timelessness is actually not akalika. I would use some Sinhalese word for that. Not Sinhalese, perhaps Sanskrit, Sinhalese and Pali, everything. And same words is used. And akalika is not timelessness. Timelessness is sarvakalika, which means if something doesn't change with the time, we use timeless. I can give you a timeless gift. I received a timeless gift because that gift doesn't change with the time. It stays the same forever. Then we can use timeless. Then if I just use timeless, then you get a different meaning. This akalika is not timelessness. Akalika means actually time is not applicable. There is no such thing called time. That's why I told you, I can write 1 and 2. How long will it take for 12 to appear? How long? When I say when I write 1 and 2, how long will it take? A minute, second, millisecond? No, you can't say that, because when causes come together, an effect appears or manifests with no time. When I say with no time, it's not instantly. Again, time is not applicable. That's called anicca, that's called akalika. That's the first rule of nature. If you don't know that, you are a part of nature. If you know this, you are nature. We can express our understanding, ladies and gentlemen. We can actually we have understood this clearly. But I can't exactly say that I have understood everything what Buddha said. But I have understood everything what I have understood clearly. I have understood it clearly. I express that understanding. Try to understand this. 12. When I write 1 and 2, 12 appears or 12 manifest. But time is not applicable. Because time is not taken. If 12 manifests like this, what about 13? It is the same. What about 132? It is the same. What about this? It is the same. Then what about this? It is the same. And what about this? It is the same. And what about the world? It is the same. What about everything then? It is the same. What about this rupa? It is the same. When causes come together, an effect is created. An effect manifests. That is called anicca. The Buddha said, Hetum paticca sambhutam. Hetum paticca sambhutam. When causes or when compatible causes come together, if you add another word, an effect forms, an effect manifests. It's only a manifestation, it's not a fixed thing. It's not a fixed thing, therefore it's only a manifestation. That's why the Buddha used the other truth, which means the other word, dukkha. Dukkha means not suffering. That's the problem, ladies and gentlemen. In Pali, it's dukkha. Then when someone reads that, then they think that, oh, this is Buddha was talking about dukkha. Therefore, they converted it to Sinhalese as dukkha and English as suffering. No one can attain Nibbana. According to my point of view, no one attained Nibbana with these meanings. Because the Buddha didn't talk about suffering, mental suffering. The Buddha was talking about a rule of nature. Everything is a dukkha. I would say a dukkha. Everything is a dukkha. But if it is mental suffering, I can't say a dukkha. But this is not mental suffering. A dukkha. This is a dukkha. This is only a manifestation. Sambhuta in Pali. Sambhuta. Sambhuta means, this is the Sambhuta, you can see that. This has only 1 and 2. It doesn't have 12, but 12 manifests. This is, if we only take 12, 12 is one thing, one fixed thing, 12. But 12 manifests. It has only its causes. If you take this, it looks like fixed object, but this is not fixed. You know that this is made up of atoms and electrons, protons, neutrons. If I take all the electrons, protons, neutrons, all the subatomic particles from this, what will remain? What will remain? If this is fixed object, if this is a fixed object, and if I take all the subatomic particles, then I will have subatomic particles in this on this hand, and this will remain there, if this is fixed. But if this is only causes, but an effect manifests, when I take all the subatomic particles, nothing remains here. That's why you can use blocks, cement blocks and sand, cement, and build a house. When you build that house, you can't sell 2 houses. You can only sell 1 house. But when you build that, if the house is a separate thing, because bricks or blocks and all these things are causes. If causes are different from the effect, then you can sell both. You use all the materials and you build a house, and after that you can open, or you can have a hardware store, because you can sell your all materials, because you don't need that, because you have created, or you have built one fixed thing. But you can't do that. You have only materials, essentially. But a house manifests. What about your body then? If you take all the subatomic particles from your body, what will remain on the chair? Nothing. That means you are subatomic particles. You, not you actually, the body is subatomic particles, essentially. But we can see a body. It's only a manifestation. Therefore, if you take anything, if you take this is a sambhuta. Sambhuta means collection of causes. It's only a collection of causes. Sambhuta. Your body is a collection of causes. When we take all the causes away, then nothing remains. When I rub this, I only rubbed 1 and 2. I didn't touch. I didn't even touch 12. I can't. Because it's only a manifestation. But without causes, that can't exist. That can't exist. Without causes. Causes should be there. When causes come together, an effect manifests. This is the rule number 1. You'd have to take the rule number 1 and practice. Because you want to enter the kingdom of heaven. Yeah? Don't you want to enter the kingdom of heaven? That means, don't you want to enter nature? Because if you can enter nature, you will become nature. To enter nature, you should, first of all, you should learn all the rules. It's like that. We have our anagarikas. They had to practice. They had to stay in their anagarika life for 1 year to become a monk. During that year, they have to learn all the rules of monkhood and practice them. When they practice, we will give them a year to practice. When they practice, we will see that they gradually become a monk. Because when they practice all the rules of monkhood, then they will be monks. When we see that, we will offer the robe. Actually, we ordain monks, not lay people. Did you understand that? Because this is not monkhood. This is a robe. Even a dog can wear this. You have to be a monk first. Then we will offer you this. We will offer this to you. This is what happened. This has happened to everyone. That's why they are still monks. Because they became monks before they get this. Before they got this. That is the rule. Then first of all, you should learn the rules. After that, you should practice. When you practice all the rules, you will become that. Therefore, if you can learn nature's rules and practice, then you will become nature. When you become nature, you are nature. That's what the Buddha asks us to do, ladies and gentlemen. The Buddha taught us anicca, dukkha, anatta and asked us to practice. That's the only thing he asks us to practice, ladies and gentlemen. If you take all the suttas the Buddha uttered, it's regarding anicca, dukkha, anatta. Because that is the rarest truth ever. No one can see that. Only the enlightened one can see that. Therefore, only the Buddha can preach to us about these rules. That's why we are rich of wisdom. Because we associate with the Buddha, the Dhamma, righteousness. This is the righteousness we are talking about. Can you see anyone who is righteous in your life? Who believes this and who practices this? No one. Because they don't know even. Perhaps they talk about impermanency. Everything is impermanent. Of course, I believe that everything is impermanent. If thing is there, it is impermanent. What they said is correct. Everything is impermanent. But the Buddha said, Buddha didn't say that nothing. Buddha didn't say nothing. We can't say nothing. How can we say nothing? Do I have something on my hand? If you say no, then I will throw it to your head. Therefore, you can't use that word nothing. That is one end, ladies and gentlemen. People want to believe that thing and nothing. Either thing means either something, or that means existence, and non-existence. The Buddha didn't say anything, any of these two. The Buddha said, Hetum paticca sambhotam. When causes come together, an effect manifests. Therefore, you can't say that. You can't use the word nothing because causes are there. You can't say something because it's a manifestation. You can't say that is fixed because it's a manifestation. When we say something, actually it is something fixed. We are talking about an entity. 12 is not an entity. 12 is only a manifestation. But we can't use the word nothing because causes are there. Therefore, this has causes. But this is not fixed. This is not one thing. This is not nothing either. You can't use that word. This philosophy is the greatest. Perhaps it's a little bit harder for you to understand. That's fine. I want you to mourn. This is the truth. And before that, I told you something about your life. First of all, you should be vigilant about your mind and about your life. And then you will mourn, ladies and gentlemen. When you mourn, then you will feel that I must achieve my salvation. This is not my salvation. This is not my life. This is what I have. I have achieved many things because I was deceived. When I understood the Dhamma, that's what I understood. That's what came to my mind. I have been deceived. That's the only thing came to my mind. Because I lost perhaps half of my life or a quarter of my life. I was deceived. I was working hard because I wanted to be rich. Then I will achieve everything. I will be the happiest person ever. Therefore, I associated with rich people, and I wanted to wear like them. I wanted to talk like them. I read many books which are recommended by them because I wanted. I think this is not only me. Everyone has the same story. If you are a successful person according to the society, successful person, you may have followed this. I'm not blaming them. That was my choice. If I was ignorant, then I had to bear it. That's my responsibility. That's why I want to help you. And at least, that's why, especially I want to help young kids. But it's really difficult for us to save them because the society is against us. We are persecuted for the righteousness' sake, but we know that. We have Nibbana, we can enter the kingdom of heaven. This is the kingdom of heaven. Let me prove that, finally. This is the kingdom of heaven. Earlier I asked one question. Why do you want to go to heaven? I'm going to answer that question now. Why do you want to go to heaven? You want suffer-free life. Perhaps this is not an English word, then suffer-free life. That's why you want to go to heaven, because you believe that in heaven you won't experience suffering and vexation. But according to the Buddha, everyone is suffering in this world. Everyone is suffering, and if I can show you many suttas, the Buddha met deities, gods, goddesses, and they talked to the Buddha regarding suffering. Everyone is suffering. I can prove that to you. Everyone is suffering because this is the mind, this is the consciousness. If someone has consciousness, he is not suffering. But if the ego is created, everyone is suffering. Therefore, when you go to heaven, this is not the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is different to heaven. Everyone wants to go to heaven, not to the kingdom of heaven. Jesus Christ said the kingdom of heaven. It's different. Because to enter the kingdom of heaven, you don't have to die. But to go to heaven, you have to die. Let me explain to you. In this case, this is consciousness, and this is the ego. If the ego manifests, suffering is created, vexation is created. Therefore, you can't have, again, suffer-free life. Here, if you come to this point, can you see any point which suffering exists? Any point? This is Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana. This is enough for you to perceive something. Therefore, with this, you don't suffer, you don't be vexed. The kingdom of heaven is this. If you can enter the kingdom of heaven, you won't suffer. Therefore, where there is a place where you never suffer, that is called the kingdom of heaven. This is the kingdom of heaven. For you, for animals, for gods, for Brahmas, for everyone. This is the kingdom of heaven. If anybody wants to attain Nibbana or enter the kingdom of heaven, they have to eradicate the ego and be nature or become nature. Nature. If you can become nature, you are in the kingdom of heaven. You won't suffer. At least you won't feel your existence. If you won't feel existence, how can you suffer? Because to suffering to be created, the ego should manifest. You can see the path. This is the process of the ego. Here you can see vexation is here and suffering is also here. When you feel the ego, which means when you feel your existence, you feel aging, you feel death, you experience death because I am going to die, because you are here now. I am going to die, I am aging, I have diseases, and I lost my parents. I want this, but I couldn't obtain it. I couldn't gain that. I don't like this person. I don't like that fan. When you don't like something, you are suffering. That's why instantly you change that. If you have money, you can do it instantly. That's why people want money, because they can change the world instantly with no time. If you don't like something or someone, you suffer. If you lose something you love or someone who you love, you suffer. In every sentence, I use you because the ego. You feel means I feel, I am aging, I. Everyone is I now. I. When I is created, when the ego is created, you feel I am aging, I will die. And fear is created. I am afraid of death, I am afraid of aging, I am afraid of losing beloved people, my possessions. I am afraid of losing my possessions because those are my. Apart from that, what else you can do when the ego is created and when you are the ego? But when you are when you are consciousness, you are nature. You are free from suffering. You are free from everything. You are free from death. Can you imagine that? You won't have that fear anymore, because if you don't exist, then how can you die? That's how you can win death. This is the real victory, ladies and gentlemen. This will be the real feather in your cap if you can achieve this. That's why we left everything behind and came to this asana. We were not foolish. We were not uneducated. We had everything. We had knowledge. We had a good education. We had a good society. We had a good name. We had everything. And we were capable of becoming someone who is popular. But right now, we don't want to be popular. We don't want anything. We don't want any fame, ladies and gentlemen. We only need freedom. Therefore, we became freedom fighters. This is the freedom. If you try to achieve your freedom, you will be a freedom fighter. But if you try to save your motherland, the society will say that you are a freedom fighter. And you battle to save, to protect the motherland. The society will tell you, but this is the real victory. This is the real battle. Therefore, if you are strong enough, come and join with us. Let's battle together. We will help you. Don't think about your age, because you are brand new. If you can understand this, you need only one mind. I'm encouraging senior citizens. Young people don't listen to this. Otherwise, they also will think that, oh yeah, we need only one mind. Then why should we go now? We will enjoy life. We will enjoy our life and we will go later. That's the thing. Actually, you don't enjoy your life. You are a slave of your own wantings, attachment, desires, and ignorance. If you think that you enjoy your life, continue to do this. Whatever you do, continue to do that. If you want to eat something, let's say you want to eat pudding. Let's say you want to eat pudding. Okay, we will give you a ton of pudding. Eat. Will you eat that? No. You eat that until you satisfy, because the ego doesn't want to continue. The ego wants different things. Therefore, today you eat bread and tomorrow you can't eat bread, you need to eat something else. Then how do you say that you are enjoying your life? You are a puppet. Let me free yourself. Let me free you. Let's achieve this. This is you. You should be proud to be this, not this. Even dogs have this. Even animals. Everyone has this. But only Arahants have this. Everyone has this, but they can't experience this. They only experience this. Therefore, I want you to achieve this and experience the life, nature, the kingdom of heaven, the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Whatever the name you use, the meaning is the same. How much you can spend and how many days, how many years you can spend. When you go home, I want you to think, if you can spend some years to achieve this, you know what to do. If you can spend some money, you know what to do. You can hire a vehicle, you can come here. And associate with noble friends. Whenever you have time. Right now I know you are busy. I can't say anything, Sanjay, because you are busy. You are busy. You are busy to save your life. That's the thing. You are busy to avoid fear. We are here to teach you, or we are here to practice with you to eradicate fear. You should decide. Anyway, we will help you because this is our job. Someone helped me when I was thinking about busyness, when I was thinking about my other activities and other responsibilities. Someone helped me. Perhaps not in this life, perhaps in my last lives. Someone told me, this is not the thing you should do. You should practice this. However, it turned. Perhaps I started earning merits after that, just to attain Nibbana, just to free myself from suffering. However, I found the Dhamma because of those merits. Therefore, I have a responsibility to help others. Therefore, I do this continuously. I means again Guru, whoever. Therefore, you can come at any time or whenever you are not busy. Oh, I would say this, because Jesus Christ once said, "Come to me, those who weary and burdened, I'll give you rest." Yeah, I would say, come to me whenever you are not busy. I will give you rest. You decide. I'll see you next week. May the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem be with you all. Thank you.